One in 5 suffer from infertility, usually silently. 1/3 of those patients are known female factor, 1/3 of those patients are known male factor, and the last third of those patients are split evenly between male and female unexplained infertility. Hi, I'm Kristen Burris. I'm a women's health and infertility expert. I own Eagle Acupuncture, and I've helped hundreds of couples have miracle babies they really never thought they could. Some of the reasons patients come to see me for their infertility include imbalanced hormones, either too high or too low, ovulatory problems, including poor ovarian reserve, endometriosis and PCOS, recurrent miscarriage, and of course the ever frustrating unexplained female factor and unexplained male factor.
I was struggling with infertility, and I had seen 2 or 3 different doctors, and they had given me a suspected diagnosis of PCOS. I was having anovulation, irregular cycles, and low progesterone levels, and at that point I had also had 2 miscarriages and 1 failed IUI procedure.
My husband and I had been trying for nearly 5 or 6 months. And I'm an OBGYN, so I knew, being 34 already, that time was sort of the essence and we needed to be quick.
Well, I first came to Kristen about 1.5 years into my fertility journey. My husband and I had been trying to conceive for about 1.5 years, initially with our first IVF clinic. And when we first approached them, I was approximately 40 years old, and they ran the basic battery of tests, as they do, to rule out any physical anomalies, check to see if there were any obstacles that they could find that were preventing conception or pregnancy as a result. And all of those tests came back normal. So we were labeled unexplained, which is it's actually a very frustrating diagnosis because it simply means the doctors do not know.
It gave me a lot of anxiety because that was one of my dreams in life, was to be a mother. I've always loved children. I love babies, and I never thought that I would be in a situation where I was thinking to myself, I am not sure if my body is going to allow me to have children.
My husband had had a test, a semen analysis, and we had found out that things weren't right, and we had a doctor tell us that we would need in vitro fertilization.
We had determined that I had an issue with regards to my semen, and consequently analysis of that put me in the lower quartile in regards to motility, morphology, and movement. And that opened the door for us to try other things.
The doctor canceled the cycle, and at that time I did not realize that we had the option to proceed with it if we wanted to. And it was canceled because we were considered low responders. We had only produced 1 or 2 eggs at that point. And that's when I was given what's called, I like to call it the donor egg speech. And what that is the doctor will approach you and say that for 1 or more reasons they believe that your best chance of conceiving a child is to go with a donor egg as opposed to utilizing your own eggs. And that speech is commonly given to women in my situation in the 40+ age group, and or in what's called a poor responder to the stimulation medicine group. And I was both.
I had been on Clomid, a fertility drug, and the side effects from it were terrible. I had newfound cysts in my breasts that came about as a possible cancer scare, and weight gain, fatigue, sleeplessness. The side effects were starting to become almost debilitating for me.
I remember walking out of the doctor's office that day feeling completely powerless, just crushed inside, just destroyed basically. because I had handed my power over to the doctor for quite some time. But I wasn't willing to give up. I wasn't ready to give up. Something inside of me said, don't, or that I can't. I don't know for sure, but it was a persistence within that led me to seek out other options and seek out at least one more try, one more attempt. And that's when I turned to acupuncture.
After my husband had the test, you know, he had it with a urologist, and then the results came through my office because my OB/GYN was one of my partners, and she literally just called me from the hospital and said, you know, Dr. So-and-so says, oh, we'll do the standard 3 cycles of insemination, but it looks like you'll have to do IVF to get pregnant. And so, yeah, you think, gosh, I never thought that that would be me. And I knew, I had seen people go through in vitro and knew that I just really didn't want to do that. But of course, we wanted children.
When I met with Kristen, I wasn't the first woman that apparently she had worked with that had fertility struggles, and she gave me hope. She gave me optimism. She basically gave me all of my power back. She empowered me to not give up, to keep trying, and to believe that it's possible to conceive, because at that point I felt like this just was not going to happen for me. I was not intended to be a mother. I wasn't going to enjoy parenthood.
I was feeling very desperate, and so desperate that I was willing to try almost anything, but at the same time my intuition was starting to kick in with me and telling me that I should not continue with fertility drugs or even with the IUI procedures, and because my body was starting to feel terrible. I wasn't sleeping, and I was almost like I felt like my body was aching.
You've probably never been told that you're twice as likely in a third of the time to get pregnant using Chinese herbal medicine compared to IVF and fertility drugs. You may have even been told that IVF is your only option and that you may need egg donor or sperm donor. But that is one medical perspective, and it's not the Eastern medical perspective. You are not too old, you are not out of options. The National Institute of Health and the World Health Organization both recommend acupuncture and herbal medicine for viable fertility treatments. If you do choose to do IVF, adding acupuncture not only increases your chances of pregnancy, but also your birth rate by over 50 to 60%. Our program works.
The very first time I came into Kristen and I had that first treatment with her, and when I left here and I felt so good after coming out of her office, I knew that this was what I was supposed to be doing.
She did a formal assessment. I answered a lot of questions about my overall general health, and I guess from that, with her training, skills and training, she was able to formulate a particular plan for my needs.
She does devise a personal plan, and the first visit with her is pretty lengthy, you know, history that you don't even think pertains from other, you know, body systems, so that she can get the whole picture of what's going on with you.
After 3 months I came in and she said, okay, I want you to try to get pregnant. And at that point I was feeling great and very optimistic. I was having regular cycles, I was ovulating, the cysts in my breasts were gone that I had gotten from taking all the synthetic drugs. So all of that bad stuff I felt was out of my body. And after 3 months, my husband and I started trying, and I was instantly pregnant.
Kristen had mentioned that she wanted me to take at least 3 months off from trying any other options, trying to conceive actually just to let my body regulate itself and normalize. And so coming in, one thing I noticed from the treatments is just how relaxing they made me feel. I couldn't wait to come in. I looked forward to it. It was such great stress relief for me.
He noticed differences in his own body that were good, and I noticed difference too in my cycle being more exact with ovulation and the timing, and just feeling more relaxed about the whole process. And Kristen was really upbeat and positive.
After maybe 6 months of treatment, went in and had another semen analysis done, and I was not only improved, I was now in the top 10% in regards to those 3 measures.
I woke up and took a pregnancy test, and I knew in my mind that I was already pregnant because I was starting to feel nauseated and all the signs that you have when you're pregnant. And so I told my husband, I said, I'm pregnant, and we were so excited, but at the same time I was also a little nervous because I'd had 2 previous miscarriages, and nobody ever wants to go through that, and I did not want to go through that again. So I was nervous, but I knew in my mind that that wasn't going to happen again.
I was in shock. I had to call the doctor's office 3 different times to confirm that I was pregnant and that it was my test and not someone else's. I couldn't believe it. I literally was in shock because it was the first and only positive pregnancy test that I ever had.
I just remember not even really believing it because you get all these negative pregnancy tests, and month after month it's just hard. And to finally see a positive was just so stunning and amazing.
I came in and I said, it worked, I'm pregnant. And we were so excited. Kristen and I were so excited. I remember crying when I told her about it when I came into the office. And she just said, okay, well, we're just gonna keep the treatments up and maybe take a little bit different approach to help keep things lifted and all your levels high, progesterone levels high, to keep that baby in there.
I was 36 when I got pregnant with our second, and yeah, you think, like, they're both healthy. What would have happened if we had decided in vitro was okay and had premature children?
I was ready to get pregnant again, and I went home after that treatment and got pregnant that day with my second son. And then 9 months later, I had another son, a healthy pregnancy, a healthy labor and delivery.
It's really a blessing that they chose to be here where we live, because they really are gurus in their field. And you know, my boys have both seen them for different things, and they're just a great wealth of knowledge.
My advice to anyone, whether or not they've been struggling with infertility like I did, or if they have just decided as a couple to start getting pregnant, I would tell them to come to Eagle Acupuncture and see Kristen and Tony and have this be their first option instead of waiting and maybe going through all the suffering, because this works. It's as simple as that. Acupuncture for infertility works.
I'd just like to say that I'm eternally grateful to Kristen for all of her help and all of her support. She will forever be a part of my daughter's birth story and life story.
You are not out of options. I am here for you with a different approach. I hope you take this opportunity, no matter where you are in the United States, and call me so we can set up a customized program and help you achieve that family you've always dreamt of.